Everybody, it's Pete Meyer, Motor Age Magazine. Not too long ago, I had the opportunity to attend the Automotive Service and Training Expo up in North Carolina. And that was being held by the Independent Garage Owners of North Carolina. But I know that they have now merged with another local organization. So I apologize. I don't know the name of the new organization. Don't have that handy. But that's not really what I'm here to talk about today. While I was there, I got to meet some folks that are part of the North Carolina Community College system, and they have a program called ApprenticeshipNC or Apprentice North Carolina. We'll ask our guest. So let me introduce her, Shante Bell. She is with the ApprenticeshipNC. Is that NC or is that North Carolina when you refer to that?
We normally say ApprenticeshipNC, but it does stand for North Carolina.
Okay, right, of course. So ApprenticeshipNC, make sure I get that right. And it's part of the North Carolina Community College system. Yes. And it really intrigued me because I only got to speak briefly to Shante at the event, and she was just giving me some really high-end overview, what we always call in business, right, that elevator speech and everything about the program. But, it really intrigued me because there's been a lot of talk in the industry, Shante, about how we currently bring our techs along. I mean, historically, we have these 2-year vocational programs. They're run through basically what is the A series and the ASC certification listings. So they're giving everywhere from general maintenance to rebuilding engines and transmissions, and that's a lot. Mm-hmm. And I know that many of us have talked about how it's too much because when they come out after 2 years, of course, being involved with the education system, knowledge that's not used is lost. And exactly. A lot of what they've learned early on is not there anymore. So you guys, a lot of apprentice programs going on across the states, mentorship programs. So I'm going to shut up for a minute. Shante, give us an overview of exactly what the ApprenticeshipNC program is all about.
Well, the apprenticeship program is basically about on-the-job training combined with related instruction and a progressive wage scale. That's the bottom line of what apprenticeship is. It's a structured type of training program that combines all three of those aspects to train folks who don't necessarily have any experience in the trade.
All right, and so you have it's a great way to get into the trade. Yes, if you have an interest, because I know that, for example, we spoke briefly about the model that I saw when I had the opportunity to visit Australia and how their school system interacts with local business to bring their apprentices along. And it was really a mixture of, classroom and on the job supervision to reinforce those skills. Is that something similar to what you guys are doing?
That is actually something very similar to what we are currently implementing. We also have something similar to what they do there, and it's called a pre-apprenticeship program. And with the pre-apprenticeship program, basically, we start recruiting in the high schools. And the high school, sometimes it can be the high school student is taking courses that are already in the curriculum at the high school. They can be taking courses at the community college. But they get some type of possibly hands-on experience as well from a company in that industry that has an apprenticeship program already. So it kind of molds them into that trade so that the company can see if they're going to be a good fit for the apprenticeship program, and if the student can get some type of exposure to what the trade actually is.
Oh, okay. So very good. So how many students do you currently have in the program?
Oh gosh, I'm sure it's several thousands. Yes.
Oh, yeah. That's so. Apparently, it's been well welcomed, by the industry up there in Carolina. Mm-hmm. Right.
And with the pre-apprenticeship program, it's not nearly as demanding as the registered program because there's no specific requirements on how much or any related instruction. And we call that the related instruction is the seated form of instruction, or there's no specific requirement for the on-the-job piece either.
Okay, I gotcha. Now, I know you mentioned earlier that you had some, a more formal presentation that you could show to share with our viewers more about that program and how it works.
Sure, as soon as I can find the button to share.
Yeah, I think you find it down there in the bottom of your screen. You should be a big green share screen button there.
Okay.
And hey, bear with us, guys. First one we're doing. It's always live, so it's always fun, right?
That's right. Always live and fun. All right, April slideshow. From the beginning. Let's see here.
So while Shantae's working on that, and I know it's a challenge, so we'll give her a couple of minutes. But what I want to say, oh, there we go. I think she's got it. There we go. Okay. So we're going to go ahead and let Shantae go ahead and share that with you guys and do her program, and then we'll come back and continue the discussion. It's all yours, Shantae.
Okay, awesome. So, hi everyone again. I am Shantae Bell. I am the North Central Regional Consultant for ApprenticeshipNC. Okay. ApprenticeshipNC is the registration agency for the state of North Carolina. The ApprenticeshipNC is a part of the North Carolina Community College system, and for registration purposes, we are the federal approving agency for North Carolina. It functions under the authority of the NC Apprenticeship Act, Chapter 22 of the NC General Statutes, and the Administrative Rules, Title 4, Subject 0102 of NC Administrative Code. ApprenticeshipNC promotes and develops and registers apprenticeship programs. ApprenticeshipNC promotes, develops, registers, and assists in the operation of registered apprenticeship programs and other training programs throughout the state. Okay. What is registered apprenticeship? Apprenticeship is a system of work-based learning designed to meet the needs of the employer by providing the employee with structured on-the-job learning and job-related instruction.
And I just want to interject real quick there, Shantae. I mean, I want to make sure that everybody understands that I mean, we're talking about the automotive sector and we'll dive into that in a little more detail, but the concept behind apprenticeship is for all the trades that your community college service, right? As you can see. So, and we all know that not only are we facing a shortage. In fact, I saw something today saying that, I don't know, is that I forget what the number was, but it's pretty high that we're going to be losing 5 for every 1 we gained here in the future. So this is a very real concern for the industry, has been for some time, but we're not the only ones. And that's kind of part of the contest that we have. So please, Shantae, continue. I didn't mean to interrupt.
Oh, absolutely. Please do. As we go through these slides, if you have any questions or if you would like any clarity for your audience, please feel free to interject. I'm very warm and welcoming to that. Okay. So there are 5 components essentially of ApprenticeshipNC. The very first component is business involvement. Without business involvement, we do not have an apprenticeship program. With a registered apprenticeship program, it is designed to meet the need of the employer. So whatever the need is, whatever the training need is, we do our best to fill in that gap, and it looks exactly the way that your company needs it to look. Okay. The second component of registered apprenticeship is the related instruction aspect, and that is the seated instruction piece. And then we have the on-the-job training. That's pretty self-explanatory, what the apprentice is going to be doing on the job. And then rewards for skills gained. That's basically our progressive wage scale. And I'll go into that a little bit deeper in a few. And then the last component of apprenticeship is those national credentials. In the state of North Carolina, apprentices receive both a credential from the North Carolina Community College System. They receive a credential from the USDOL, and they also receive a journeyman's card. So that's a big bonus in here in the state of North Carolina as well. Okay. The on-the-job learning is basically the how to do a specific trade. It basically outlines how to perform a specific trade. That's a lot of what a lot of the students are not getting or not understanding if they just simply go to a school and get the education. They don't really know how to apply it. And that training through the apprenticeship program helps to fill that gap.
So Shante, let me kind of jump in there, and I guess you're getting ready to talk about that. Maybe you are. But again, like we talked about with the Australian model, it was the student would go to class 1 or 2 days a week. And then there was a partnership there between that shop owner who agreed to take him on as an apprentice and the school, right? So he would go to school, or she would go to school 1 or 2 days a week. And then the shop owner would work him in the shop the rest of the week, pay him, for working there. And while he was doing that, he was also keenly aware of what he was being taught so he could reinforce those particular skills. Is that something similar to what this program is geared to do?
Absolutely. Very similar. And I wasn't going to go into a whole lot of detail about it, but as far as consortia and bigger companies who have the flexibility to come together as a cohort. Say you have 15 students that are going to be registered into your program a particular year. We can make connections with that community college to try and make it so that that student is only going to class 1 or 2 days of the week. And the rest of the week they are in the shop working.
Okay, so I guess, and again, I guess it's still like a 2-year program, right? For the automotive side, anyway.
So there's several different trades in automotive. So as far as an automotive tech, that would be a 2-year program. Okay, but 4,000 hours. For a mechanic, that would be about 8,000 hours. So that'll be a 4-year program. But the next slide will get into a little bit more detail about the hour requirements for an apprenticeship program. Now, these hours are determined by USDOL. Okay, they have boards that come together from these specific industries to determine how many hours with somebody that has no experience whatsoever, how long will it take someone to be proficient to be able to be considered a journeyman in that particular trade.
Yeah, absolutely. Please continue.
So there are 3 different ways that you can approach the hours for the on-the-job training, or we call work process. The first is, as I was mentioning, the time-based. So that's the 4,000 hours or the 8,000 hours, depending if you're a tech or a mechanic. Okay. And with that being said, those hours again are determined by USDOL. The apprentice must complete at least those hours to be considered a journeyman for that trade through the time-based model. Okay. And then we have a competency approach. Now, with the competency approach, they have to be in the program for at least 1 year. Okay, but there's tests. If you can design some tests to determine whether or not that apprentice is competent in that particular area, you would design a test for each area, and once that apprentice has completed those requirements, then they can move on without the restraint of the time. Okay. And then there's the hybrid approach. The hybrid approach is a bit of a mixture of both the time-based and the competency-based. The hybrid approach basically says, okay, we're going to give you a range of hours. So say your program, USDLL says your time base for a mechanic is 8,000 hours. Your apprentice must complete 8,000 hours to complete in a time-based manner, but we'll give you some leeway with the hybrid approach where they can complete the program 5,200 hours in as early as 5,200 hours, which is roughly 2.5 years. Okay. So from 2.5 years to 4 years is what they have to complete the program. The only other requirement with that hybrid approach is that there is a competency checklist. It doesn't necessarily have to be a test, but there must be some way to measure the apprentice's progress. And that's determined by you as well, the sponsor. And those are the three approaches to the on-the-job training piece.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I guess we want to stress here too, for people who are watching who are current educators, or even those who are just kind of exploring the idea of getting involved in the field. They may be thinking to themselves, oh my God, 8 years. But let me clarify, I guess, and correct me if I'm wrong, but because that you're going to school 1 or 2 days a week and then you're working, okay, so you're making money, right, during that time frame. And if it's similar to the Australian model, the longer you go, the more time you spend in the shop, the less time you spend in the school. So that, yeah, but the beauty part is, and I really like this fact, you have to show competency and the skills that you're learning. And I, for one, am not too concerned about whether, the guy can come out or girl can come out and, rebuild an engine or rebuild a, 10-speed transmission, because the reality is we don't do that much of that. We have specialists who do that, right? I know that if I were a shop owner, I'm looking for someone who can, in the very beginning, show good work ethic, can be there on time, knows basic safety protocols around the shop, knows basic hand tool use, that kind of thing in the beginning, beginning. And then you bring them on, simple tasks to more involved tasks. And again, that's what I like about what you're saying here about the way the program is structured, is that you're going to show them XYZ in the classroom, and then in partnership with their sponsor, they're going to be doing that XYZ hands-on to put that into memory, to put that skill to use. And it's going to build as they go, because you might start off learning how to do an oil change in your first few weeks, but 2 years, 3 years from now, if you're working in the shop, you're still going to be doing oil changes, right? So it's not a skill that's going to be lost. And again, and you're building on that over time. So I think that's got a lot of advantages. I mean, I want to say this too. I've worked and met with a lot of teachers in the public sector over the last 10 years with the magazine. And I have yet to meet a one that was not passionate about helping their kids succeed or helping their students succeed, and this is just another way to give them a possible avenue to take back to their school systems or their community college network, get that discussion going about, hey, maybe this is a better fit, for our students' needs across the board. Of course, we're focused on automotive today because that's our interest, but whatever skill level, whatever trade you're in, being able to put somebody to work, get them to make a living, and then teach them as they go along. I mean, I know a lot of shops are doing that kind of independently, but to involve a professional educational component to that with a guideline, and again, you're going to get that journeyman card when you reach the end. I mean, this is something that really would mean a lot to me as an employer. If somebody came in and said, this is where I'm at in the program, for example, if they wanted to switch sponsors or switch localities, or whatever the case might be, that would mean a lot to me too, if I knew what I'm beginning to know about your program. So yeah, keep on going on.
Yeah, and that partnership, I just wanted to speak a little bit more about what you were just talking about with that partnership with the school system and with the community college system. Once you develop a partnership with ApprenticeshipNC and the school system or the community college system, you can create a pipeline that you will continuously have a flow of talent. So that's another added bonus of partnering with Apprenticeship NC and in the state of North Carolina. That's how we roll.
And Shante, I do have another question for you here. Actually, a question from someone who's watching on LinkedIn. Does your program, the North Carolina program, currently have one associated for the collision repair segment?
We currently have, I don't know about the entire state, but the North Central region, we currently have a program for pre-apprenticeship in collision. However, they usually just go to the shop and they're our tech. But currently, we are working on a curriculum for collision with the Independent Garage Association as well.
Oh, okay, very good. And
Yes.
And just to give some more people again who are watching an idea, what other trades are you currently actively involved in?
Oh gosh,
That many?
yeah. There's a lot. There's over 2,000 apprenticeable occupations. What I will say is typically, I work most with the advanced manufacturing aspect of things. I've gotten a lot of traction with the automotive industry as well here in the recent 2 years or so, as well as construction. Construction has always been the bread and butter of apprenticeship programs. They've gotten it from the very beginning that
Right.
It was important to have folks to train on the job
Right.
in order to be successful. But yes, I have IT programs. I mean, it's all over the place, and it's continuously growing.
And is there more that you want to share in your presentation, or?
I do. I have some more slides, but we can do what feels right. I'm good with that.
Okay. Because I guess another comment that kind of came up in the chat there. Of course, we're all coming out of the pandemic. Hopefully, there's still some hot spots around the country, but hopefully we're on the downward side of this slope. And of course, during that time, again, this makes the news all the time about the shortage of manpower across the board and woman power. I don't want to let the ladies out. Across the board, and that's a challenge. I guess I know a lot of people in my generation, when all of this started, they said, well, I don't really want to take any chances, so I'm just gonna back out and retire early. And so there was this huge exodus of people on the senior end, so to speak, that retired early and got out. And then on the younger side, this gave them an opportunity, if they weren't like in a service industry or something and they were kind of shut out for a while, they gave them a chance to reflect on really what they wanted to do in their lives and explore new opportunities. So I guess what I'm trying to get at here is, in your program in Carolina or North Carolina, have you seen what kind of interest level have you seen in these various trade programs?
I've seen astronomical interest. I think that in the last 2 to 3 years, apprenticeship has taken off drastically, as far as expanding in the trades that we have here in the state of North Carolina. And I believe that it is the same trend across the country. But as you mentioned, a lot of these individuals, even before the pandemic, they were aging out, they were retiring out of the trade, and the skills gap was there because there was no one to pass those skills down to. And apprenticeship is really the ideal program to fill that gap.
Are you aware of other states around the country that have programs similar to yours?
Apprenticeship is apprenticeship across the country.
Sure.
We follow federal guidelines. So basically, if it is a federal program, a federal apprenticeship NC program, a federal program, the guidelines that we follow are exactly the same as any federal programs. Now, from state to state, there may be a little bit of difference if they are not a federal approving state. If it's not a federally recognized state, my apologies. But for the most part, apprenticeship is what it is across the
Okay.
country.
So if, let's just say if we have shop owners, people in the industry, maybe some of the aftermarket folks, because we have quite the audience across the board. It's one of the reasons I wanted to host it here on LinkedIn. Let's just say that maybe there's an aftermarket company that wants to become involved in this program, or there's shops who are watching, shop owners who are watching. Can they go to somewhere on the Department of Labor website and find out what areas are hosting these programs? How could they find out more about this in their own state?
Yes, you can. If they are not in the state of North Carolina, I do urge them to go to USDOL website for the apprenticeship programs, and the links will guide them to their particular state and who is their point of contact in the state.
Okay, so everybody, you heard that, just go to the U.S. Department of Labor website and look for the apprenticeship program listings if you want to see what resources are available in your state, your community. And another thing that I'm just going to throw out there, I get questions all the time about, where can I find good techs? And the very first question I ask in response to that is, are you involved in your local program? Are you involved in your local school? So I'm going to just throw that challenge out again to those who are watching who are not. If you're not involved in your local program on their industry advisory council, whether they're still doing it the way we always have, or they're embracing new ideas like the one we're talking about here, by being involved in that, you have an input in that, you have an influence in that, and can help. You're actually helping that school develop the curriculum that's going to meet your needs in the business. So by all means, you want to make sure you take part in that. So if you're new to that, hey, reach out, ask. You can even ask your local community college or VOTEC and ask them, are they doing something similar to this? And if not, why not? Maybe you could be that catalyst that brings some new information to them that maybe they're not aware of. So that's a resource that you certainly want to bring. And again, if you guys are in other aspects of the industry, if you're involved with the aftermarket companies, the manufacturers, the OEs in any way, shape, or form, I encourage you, of course, to support your programs one way or the other. But this seems like a great place for you too to tap talent, because it's not limited to technicians, is it, Shante?
No, absolutely not.
Yeah.
Absolutely not.
Yeah,
I have one of my bigger apprenticeship programs is with Cummins, and I'm sure they build a lot of the engines for a lot of the companies that are looking at the video
Sure.
today as far as automotive.
Sure.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm going to also want to kind of stress here too, or share with everybody who's watching. You heard her. Cummins is going to snatch these same talented students that you want. And it's not just in the transportation segment. This is across the board. The same skill sets that you're looking for, every other technical trade is looking for, and you're competing with them. So we have to make sure that, again, we step up our game and we offer these potential apprentices who are interested in automotive the chance to do that and and make a livable wage at the same time. Let's be real. One of the things that I often see when techs are graduated from conventional programs is that the shop owners, the older guys, like in my age group, they remember how they came up, and it was a different time back then. When you started, you maybe worked in the local service station and you were sweeping floors and cleaning bathrooms. As an apprentice, you were kind of learning as you go, right, from nothing. So maybe that's part of that. But now when these kids are enrolled in school and they're investing their own money to take these programs, you got to treat them a little better than that. And don't expect them right off the bat either to be A techs, when they graduate these 2-year programs. That's, again, Shanti, I got to say what I really like about this apprenticeship concept, is that you can take someone who is brand new to the business and bring them along and reinforce those skills, and you're going to have an A tech before long, and they're going to be a good tech. And if you're sponsoring them, right, if you're that shop sponsor, then you really have a good relationship with that individual from day one if you're treating them right. So don't fret that you're going to bring him along and he's going to bail on you and go to the next shop. I hear that all the time too. If you treat your people right, they're not going to go anywhere. So anyway, kind of a little off track. I'll get off my soapbox and let Shantae go back to sharing what she has to share.
Oh, I did want to make one more comment before I go back to that. But
Sure.
as far as North Carolina is a very unique state in the way that we operate. The structure, the foundation of apprenticeship is the same across the country for the most part. However, in North Carolina, we try to be more engaged with our companies per se. So that's why there's several of us. Well, I don't even know how many there. There's usually about 8 of us in each region. There's 8 of me in each region. I'm sorry. There's 8 of me across the state. So I'm the North Central region, and then you have others throughout the West and the East, and there's other consultants that you have a personal relationship with to attend to whatever needs you have for your program.
Yeah.
To
Wow.
be the connections for workforce boards and community colleges, K-12, et cetera, et cetera. And we also have youth coordinators. So the youth coordinators specifically work with the high schools in the area that they serve to continuously keep that flow and that communication line available whenever we have companies that are interested in developing programs through ApprenticeshipNC and the K-12 system.
Yeah, and that's a very good point, Shantae. I'm glad you brought that up. It's like, again, with these shop owners, getting involved with these programs, doing the career fairs at the local high school, heck, doing them in middle school to show just really how exciting this industry can be. I mean, think about it. It's not just greasy hands and busted knuckles anymore. We're talking about high technology. Just look at the news. We're on the verge of an EV future. Autonomous vehicles are in the works. Just the number of computers on a car today is enough to intrigue a lot of younger people's interest because they're in that tech generation, right? So yeah, that's fantastic. If you've got somebody like you who's being that liaison, that facilitator between the programs and the DOL and the sponsors and the whole, that's a wonderful resource. So yeah, that sounds really, really good.
And additionally, and this is also exclusive to North Carolina, I'm sure there's some other states that are doing something similar, but exclusively to North Carolina, if you decide to register your apprentice while they're in high school, at least the date of their graduation from high school, the state of North Carolina will cover the tuition for that student in any community college in the state, given that program is outlined in your apprenticeship program.
Wow.
And that's
powerful.
a great benefit. Yeah.
Yeah, that's powerful. I'm gonna let you continue because I can keep kind of coming up with other questions to ask. So I'm gonna go ahead and let you talk a little bit more before I interject again.
Okay, I'm gonna try to go through these a little bit quicker, okay?
Sure.
So the next one is the job-related education or the job, the related instruction. That's basically what the apprentice learns on the job. So for every year of the program, an apprentice must complete at least 144 hours of related instruction. And this piece of it is a standalone piece. What I showed you before was the on-the-job piece and the different ways that we can break that down. But whatever USDOL says that time-based requirement for the program is the higher number, that's the number we have to go by to determine the amount of hours that are required for the job-related education or the related instruction.
Sure.
Okay. The next thing is a progressive wage scale. And with the progressive wage scale, I've written this out just so that you can kind of see what I'm talking about. But basically, you would determine what your journeyman's rate is. And your journeyman's rate is what you would pay someone who is completely qualified to do the job.
Sure.
They may have maybe 2 or 3 years of experience, someone that you would consider in your company strong enough to train someone else. Okay. So whatever you would pay that individual, you would consider your journeyman's rate. From your journeyman's rate, you would determine the rest of the rates that you would pay your apprentice. If your journeyman's rate's $20 an hour, the first year of your program, you must pay that apprentice at least $10 an hour, which is 50%. You can always pay them more, but according to federal law, you have to pay them at least 50% of what your journeyman's rate is.
Yeah.
That second year of the program, you can pay them whatever you want as long as there's some type of increase, even if it's just a penny. We hope it's a whole lot more than a penny, but it's only required that you give them at least a penny increase. However, that third year of the program, the apprentice would make at least 85% of that journeyman's rate. And if it was $20 an hour, it would be $17 an hour at that third year. So depending on how your company is already structured, you may have something implemented like this already, and it may fall within the guidelines, but these are the guidelines for the wage scale as far as the apprenticeship program is concerned.
Yeah, and again, I'm thinking of this, or trying to think of this from a shop owner standpoint. Like she said, if you're looking for an A tech, what are you paying your A techs? Now, I guess there will be one consideration there. You're looking at an hourly rate here. This is not a flat rate or commission base, right? So you can't use that for the program. Is that correct, Shante?
Absolutely.
It has to be an hourly rate. But you know what? So many shop owners are seeing the advantage to getting away from the old flat rate basis that I grew up on and going to, an hourly rate. As a tech, just my 2 cents, when I was a technician, if you're a flat rate, then of course you're being pressured to go faster than maybe you would like to. So you don't want to be careless about the job. You don't want to take unnecessary shortcuts. But that's what that kind of pay scale encourages. And then if there's nothing to do in the shop, and those times happen, well, then your techs aren't making any money and they can't take care of their families. And I'm going to tell you, shop owners, from my own personal experience as a tech, I never left a shop because I didn't like the boss, or I didn't like the work environment, or I didn't like the people I was working with. The only time I ever left any shop and looked for another was I wasn't making enough money to take care of my family, and that's what this is really kind of doing. It's giving that student an opportunity to, again, first, if you get him out of high school, now he's getting the school side of it paid for. And then you get to put him to work and be that beneficiary of that training, and he gets to make a living. So he's not going into debt, for his education, right? That's tremendous. I mean, again, parents, if you're watching, college is not always the answer for everybody. It wasn't for me, and there's a lot of people that I know in the industry that have college degrees from some of the big Ivy League schools that went into this business rather than pursue, say, a Wall Street career, or living in a glass tower or something like that. They just like getting their hands dirty. So if you give that opportunity, that student that opportunity, and you're paying him, $10 an hour is still kind of on the low side as far as I'm concerned, but it's something, right? It's better than flipping burgers at the local McDonald's, and he's learning a trade. He's learning your trade, and he's able, or she's able, to pursue that dream. And then having a way that they know this is how it's going to step up for them as they progress through their training. Everybody likes to know that. How many shops offer increased rate or rate for passing your ASCs? The more ASC certifications you have, the more you're paying your tech, right? That's very common in the business. No different here. As they become better and more skilled, they're worth more money. So, and I like that it's structured, it's specifically structured, so everybody in the game knows what's going on. That's good.
Right. Absolutely. And the most important piece of it, but it's most simple, I guess I feel like it's the most simplistic, but the apprenticeship standards. The apprenticeship standards basically outlines the responsibility of the sponsor, the apprentice, and ApprenticeshipNC. It determines the occupation and the length of time, and it tells what type of training it is, be it time-based, competency, or hybrid. And as I mentioned before, in North Carolina, we are here for you. ApprenticeshipNC, we pride ourselves in being available to the sponsors that we serve to answer questions, to revise programs, to assist in whatever need in whatever ways needed, to assist in the further development of the program, be it partnering with the community college, partnering with K-12, partnering with workforce boards, or what have you, whatever, nonprofit organizations, building consortias. We're here for you, man.
That's awesome, Shante. It really is. Hey, if you have any questions about the program, like I said, you can go to the Department of Labor website to learn more. And I'm sure that if you go, I believe it's ApprenticeshipNC.org, or what's the website for you guys? EDU. I should have known that. So you can always go to ApprenticeshipNC EDU if you are in North Carolina. If you're a shop owner, you're interested in participating in this program, I'm sure that Shante or the local regional rep would love to hear from you and help you develop that pipeline for new technicians in your shop. If you're an educator and your school is not part of this program, I'm sure she'd love to tell you all about it and how that can happen. If you're a high school instructor and you're looking for a way to give your students a leg up, I'm sure she'd love to help you learn how to do that as well. And if you're just out of state, I know that there's some other programs similar to this. I want to say that I've heard of one other, is a not-for-profit organization, a private organization that's kind of doing a similar program. They're out there, and to me, that's just a much better way of bringing your techs along, especially in light of all this high technology that we have to deal with. So, Shanti, you have anything in closing for us?
That is basically it. We did talk a little bit about pre-apprenticeships, but if you guys have any questions, feel free to shoot me an email, give me a call. I will definitely point you in the right direction and give you whatever answers that I have to move forward in developing a program. Cool.
So what's your email address there, Shante?
My email address, there you go. My email address is bells@nccommunitycolleges.edu.
Cool. So I got my little window here. Otherwise, just make sure that's out of the way so they can see that. And there's her phone number. And Shante, I can't tell you how much I appreciate you taking the time to spend with me this morning and share what your program's doing, and to make this aware to others around the country who may want to try to bring that home to their own communities and help their young folks along. So thank you again for taking the time.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.